Hey, welcome, Cody. How are you, sir?
Doing good. How you doing this evening?
Oh, doing great. Welcome to the show, and thanks for doing this.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm glad to be here.
All
I'm looking
right,
forward to it.
perfect. Heck yeah, this is gonna be awesome. That's gonna be exciting, I think. So like I said before, everybody gets a quick little introduction. So you are Coby Raznik, married, father of three, ex-Marine. You hold a degree in computer science focused in networking, which I do as well, pretty much. I have an IT degree. Currently the environmental service director working with wastewater treatment, which is pretty interesting in itself, enjoys woodworking, racing enthusiast, club president of the Brewnet in Johnson City, Tennessee, and most importantly, a passionate mead and beer maker. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, pretty much me in a nutshell.
All right, so we're gonna kind of start with like your origin story. So, like, what made you start with mead, or what was the interesting side of mead that you went with?
Well, in the late '90s, I was in the Marines at the time. We were in Europe. It was found out later it was actually a braggot. This is well before my knowledge of everything. So I had some mead while we were there, and I enjoyed it. I spent the next 20 years trying to find something similar once I got back to the United States, and there just wasn't anything like that. So I decided to make it. I spoke to then at the time president of Brunette, Todd Wood, and
Mhm.
he kind of got me started with some, smaller gallon sized equipment and a couple little things that I needed, some yeast and things of that nature. And it's been an experience ever since. I've been at it now for 3.5, 4 years, I guess.
Oh wow! So I was under the impression you've been making mead, gosh, a lot longer than that. Honestly, I thought you've been making mead for like a decade or so. That was my
No,
impression
no,
of it.
it's
Yeah,
it's fairly new as far as I'd like to call it a hobby, but it's maybe been more of an obsession.
yeah. It might be, but I think all of this is a passion of love at the end of the day
It
overall.
is.
Yeah. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about, I guess, the Marine background, and just a little bit, just kind of give a little bit more of an idea of you. So you say you spent 4 years in the Marine Corps, correct? So like
Yes,
fresh
I
out of
do.
straight out of high school. So how did that experience shape you today?
I don't typically end up late for meetings because of it. That's a bit of an
Perfect.
inside joke with me. A
Perfect. I love
little bit of
it.
anxiety there. No, the truth of it is it kind of set the core because I was a pretty spirited youth, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I knew when I was young that if I didn't do something with my life, I would be in a pretty bad spot in young adulthood. It's done a lot for me. It taught me a lot of core values, and it's put me on the right track in life.
That's perfect, man. That's awesome. So after the Marines, did you go and get your computer science degree? Is that how that worked out?
I come back, and I had a couple of life scares, I guess would be the best thing. I had a couple injuries in the civilian workforce. And then decided, maybe all that hard labor wasn't really cut up to be what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to college. I had the GI Bill, so I figured why not.
Yeah, for sure.
And
Yeah.
I got started in the computer science. There was nothing locally where we lived.
Mhm.
Had to basically back then you'd had to move to Atlanta or someplace like that, and it just wasn't in the books for me. So got offered a job from a friend in wastewater. I've been doing that pretty much ever since. So
Yeah, so that's pretty interesting. So when I graduated from ETSU 2011, I kind of went through the same issue in this general era, of the Tri Cities. A lot of the IT jobs just kind of dried up. That's when like the shift was still going overseas. There wasn't a lot of in-house IT work. So I actually ended up the whole year and a half of programming skills I had, I became a web developer programmer basically. So I did like PHP for a while, then JavaScript, and kind of went up and down the stack. And I've learned that, and C Sharp, Node.js, which is still like a JavaScript backend stuff. On what else have I done? Done a lot of frameworks. So right now, it's a lot of frameworks. So my current job, I do like PHP is the backend programming language. We use Laravel, which is like model view controller kind of thing, if you're familiar with that. And then I use Vue.js, which is a JavaScript library framework for the front end. It's not as so you don't have to write as complicated JavaScript code. It's a little less heavy handed that way. You can still write plain old JavaScript if I need to. So yeah, so I kind of get the understanding of like going my gosh, what am I going to do since I can't find a job? I have this degree. I got to figure out something. So, without getting too technical, with your current role, like, what is a environmental service director day to day look like?
I deal with a lot of contractors who are doing building expansion, subdivisions, things of that nature. I deal with a lot of state regulatory as far as ensuring that what we're doing and treating and is in compliance with state and federal regulations. Also regulate industry internally, so everything in Jonesboro and Telford pretty much
Okay.
care of that. I serve as the control authority for them. So just like the state or federal guys would come in and inspect us, I have to do that for all of our industries. And it's several hats.
That's what it sounds like. Yeah.
It's a it's a pretty big job. I have a great staff under me, which makes that a whole lot easier.
I'll add, yeah, it's definitely like a great staff. I mean, 'cause, hey, it's almost like you're like a project manager in a way too, right?
Yeah.
Just because you got to balance all this stuff. That's kind of insane. Wow, couldn't imagine that. So let's kind of switch over to like, let's go from like wastewater to brew water, right? So I guess where I'm going to kind of leave this conversation a little bit too is I'm kind of curious because I won't say podcasts, but most videos I've watched, when they talk about water chemistry, they either go too deep, so it's kind of hard to understand, or they don't go deep enough, they kind of gloss over it. So, what is your approach to water chemistry, especially with your kind of background?
I have an environmental lab um, at my disposal where I work at. We are a state certified laboratory there on site.
Hmm.
So I'm pretty familiar with the chemistry and biology and all the things that go in with that. Water quality is actually pretty important to me. Uh, I use the knowledge that I had from my experience at work to, I guess it'd be beneficial, but it's more on I didn't have to learn how to use any of the equipment. I already knew that coming in because of what I do for a living. So it was more having to learn the way that the chemicals, not really chemicals, but the salts and
Just
the other things were utilized. Some things I try to use like spring waters and things of that nature, but if there's something that I'm doing that's special, I will typically start from an RO into something. I found that if you're using the Brewing water, I guess that's the name of the program that a lot of people like to use.
is one of them. I think so. Yeah, sounds right.
They've got it's a Vienna.
The water profile.
Yeah, it's for a Vienna malt.
Okay.
It's like a um, what do they call it? Extract type brew. So that water profile seems to work best for me.
Okay.
But that my meads don't taste like most, I don't think. So maybe that's a preference.
It could be. Yeah, it's true. I didn't think about that.
I typically make a lot of session meads
Hmm.
instead of full strength, but I have noticed that if I'm making, a 12 to 14%, larger mead, I'm better off to do spring water because it's harder to get that mix right. So if you already got a little harder water, and then I can do like additions I'm a Ferment O guy when
Hmm.
it comes to meads. I don't use Ferment K in mead. I can taste it. It's
Hmm.
kind of like some of the yeast that we use, like D47, has a bitterness, and I don't. It really doesn't matter where it's used at. I can taste D47 in a mix. If somebody's used it, it's not a fault or a bad thing. It's just I can tell that it's been used because I'm familiar with the yeast. I guess is more of anything.
I think that's what I used in my meat. I think we talked about this a couple months ago, maybe. I feel like
Mhm.
that's the one I used. I'm not 100. I don't really recall because I made it over a year ago now, so it's like it's still just kind of just chilling uh, behind me. But I keep my beer. I have a beer fridge back there, and I have a little shelf with a bunch
Cool.
of different beer equipment over on that side of my basement. So I'm in my office area. That's where I work and I record. So it's a fun thing here for sure. So that's a good point. So, if somebody were new to water chemistry and is listening to this podcast, what is the one thing that you would tell them to focus on first? Kind of curious what your answer would be on this one.
As far as water chemistry,
Yeah.
I would start out as simple as possible, and the easiest way to do that is spring water. That way you've got a known water profile. If it tastes good to you, it's probably going to make a tasty product. Don't use anything that's chlorinated. If you like your tap water, honestly, if you can run it through a carbon filter in your refrigerator and get it into a jug, it's probably fine to use. It's going to taste okay, but you're going to end up with some off flavors, but they won't be as notable as you would get from something that you've added salts and things like that to.
So I guess you still would have to use a Cadmium tablet if you use tap water, correct, to get the chlorine.
The carbon filter, like from your fridge, will take care
Yeah.
of that for
Okay.
the most part. I've never really had an issue with that from at least our water source here, and we're on a different one than the Tri Cities. We're down in Greene County.
Yeah, I'm Johnson City water, but I'm on the edge of the water, so who knows what the quality is. I use distilled water. I've always have. That's been my go-to. I like the Blake Slate. I like tweaking my salts just to kind of get different kind of profiles. My go-to profile, which I think I've talked about, I'm pretty sure I've talked to you before about it, but it's like 3 grams of gypsum, 3 grams of Epsom salt, and 3 grams of calcium chloride. I kind of like that blend. I think that works best for a lot of my beer styles. Now I have switched it. I've gone like 2-4-2, 1-5-1, or whatever. But it's always those three salts. I've have used lactic acid a couple times. Noticed certain grain bills will make it more neutral. So maybe like almost like 6 percent. It's not percent. What is it for acid? Anyways, it's like 6 on the acidic level, where beer wants to be around like 5.3 to 5.5, somewhere around there, right? For most beer
Yeah,
styles.
for your pH and your
pH. Thank you. I don't know why I could think of pH. So, but I use like this, and again, I use like lactic acid, but you have to be careful with that too, because you can definitely drop it too fast as well too. I've done that by accident a couple times. So, being the club president, which is a pretty big role,
it's been interesting, honestly.
I bet you it has. I guess the first part is like, okay, so the way I worded the questions is not the way I'm going to ask them. Like, why did you take the president role?
You always want to go with somebody's got to do it, but the truth is, I enjoy it, and
Okay.
the club itself has been about 8 years now, so I would like to definitely hit that decade mark,
Mm-hmm.
and I just wanted to contribute and
Mm-hmm.
try to ensure that actually happens.
Right. So I guess, so then what is the vision that so let's say you run for the next 2 years, right? Or hold a position. Like, what is the vision? What is your desired outcome?
We have a very solid group of brewers. They have a pretty deep background, and most of them have considerably more experience than I do. And it's nice, but they're also willing to share information, and they're willing to brew, and they're active. I just want to see if we can't spread that information out. The
Yeah.
the club is basically a foundation to make sure that happens. So it brings those people together, and it gives them a forum to kind of do that. And I just want to maintain that and ensure that the membership is able to grow and do what they want, accomplish
Mhm.
the goals that they have. I mean, I don't really have any other goal than that, just to make sure that everybody's happy.
Right. I don't know, I mean, that's a brilliant goal, actually. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that's very thoughtful, caring for sure. Definitely would like to see the club grow. I would definitely like to see the club have members show up a little more often if they can. I've seen a dip myself. Being, again, I've always been, I'm an outsider is not the right term for my position, I guess, in the club. Because I'm the watcher. I just kind of watch things go on. I make sure people that do show up, they're greeted. Maybe I'm a greeter. I'm not sure what my role
You do a
is.
really good job with that.
Thanks.
I'll let you know, and that you're a very familiar and happy face to see every time we show up.
No, thank you. Yeah, so I try to be, because like I know what it's like to be the outside guy. So like, I don't like people feeling that way. Everything you ever do, whatever club you join, it doesn't matter what it's like. It's always clicky to begin with, because they don't know you, you don't know them, so you kind of got to work your way in there. So it's just, I mean, it's like high school all over again, right? So you can find that click. For sure, man. Awesome. So we covered your vision, which I think is just a stellar one to do. Do you know roughly like how big the club is? I was trying to think of that earlier. I have no idea, because Facebook is a
Roughly,
liar.
we have anywhere from 12 to maybe 20 members show up a month,
Yeah,
and I think, and some people are not members and show because it's where they're
friendly.
happy and where their friends are, and which is great. We're somewhere 18 or 20, maybe
Okay.
22 members on the books. But as far as regulars, we're probably, if you took everybody combined with family and those that actually participate, everybody showed up at once, you're probably looking at 30 or 40. So
Gotcha.
yeah, it depends.
I don't know, and it really does. I think it just depends on the time of the year and stuff like that. I know, like another club I belong to, um, is shrinking overall, and it's just there's not a lot of younger people, and I'm not young, but I'm one of the younger ones of the group itself. So they need fresher people to get into the hobby. And we'll kind of talk about that trend here in a little bit. But for somebody who's thinking about maybe joining like a homebrew club, what would you tell them and what should they expect from a homebrew, and not ours per se, but just homebrew clubs in general?
Well, I've been to a few, and there's a couple in the area. There's a few newer ones that we're starting to reach out to. We're actually looking forward to meeting some of the Lakeway group
Mm-hmm.
here in a couple weeks. But when you show up, expect a friendly environment, people to welcome you. They're going to have enough for you to enjoy, to drink, bring something to share, And if you haven't brewed or it's your first meeting, don't be shy. Just tell them that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Just be open book about it, and they're going to help you, and they're going to have their opinions. And if there's 10 people sitting there, they're going to have 10 different opinions about what you may need to do or not do. That's just part of brewing, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's taste too, right? Everybody's taste buds are very subjective. Some people are more sensitive to sweets and sours and stuff like that. Because like when I did my Oktoberfest, was that 2 months ago? There was some people tasted what is that called? Diacetyl, right? Butter flavor. I didn't taste it at all. But
I didn't even.
Joe pointed it out to me, and he asked me if I did a diacetyl rest. No clue what that was at all. I've been doing this for about 3 years, but my equipment is very primitive for the most part. But after he told me what it was, like, oh, I guess I could have done that if I knew what that was to begin with lagering. All right, so I didn't do it. So I didn't. I enjoyed it for what it was. I think it was a pretty tasty beer. But I think, like you said, the knowledge that you get from other people is very important. Their opinions, definitely take that, because a lot of them have years of experience. There's I'm sure there's people in our group, yeah, 20 years plus. Like, I'm not even sure how many years Ernie has. I mean, I'm sure he's probably pushing 30 years into it, if not
Yeah,
longer.
if not longer.
Yeah, like he's really good. He makes all sorts of crazy stuff. So now let's kind of jump over to your adventures into beer. That's been a pretty interesting one too. I've enjoyed all your beers as well. So what? So okay, you went the mead route because you tried mead when you were in the service. Now that you switched over to beer itself, what do you think it's different? Like, do you think it's like a different beast you're kind of wrestling with a little bit, or is it
They're
some
very
similarities?
different.
Very different. Okay.
I think mead
Hmm.
is, on the ferment side, is technically and 100% harder than beer ever thought about being. It is so sensitive because it's the low pH, and there's so many things that are going on that you have to deal with, temperatures and all that with mead, that some beers are picky about those things, but not as many. Like if you're doing ales and stuff like that, you have to worry about that as much. You just got to hit the yeast's range and you're in pretty good shape.
Right.
On the beer side, it is technically harder to hit your gravities, to mash in and do the things. So it's, constructing the beer is harder, but fermenting the mead is harder. So I was pleasantly surprised with how easy it was to ferment a beer. The technical side of it, I'm still learning.
Gosh, yeah. I've overshot, undershot, OGs. I've undershot, final gravity. I've done it all. I've infected beers. No clue how it happened. Just all sorts of crazy stuff. It's just, yeah. We haven't had a whole lot of infections, but I had two that really bummed me out. Like I was talking to my cousin. Hefeweizens I can't make. I've made two. They both got infected. I don't know what I did wrong. It's all these. It's the same equipment. I just can't make them, so I just buy them now. Like the beer gods are like, nope, you can't do this, Jeremy. Like, all right, it's fine. I'll just make something else instead.
Understandable. I tried to do different types of beer,
Yeah.
and I've been drinking beer since I was 12. Let's not tell the game, but yeah, just, it's a secret. As a kid, you kind of get into the family stash on occasion, and
Yeah.
those kinds of things. It's part of growing up, at least at our age. They may not do that nowadays. Um, you got your types that you like, and I always had commercial beers that I would avoid and that I didn't enjoy. And I've found since we've started homebrewing that's a much broader depth on the type of beer I enjoy. and it
Mhm.
really comes down to the quality of homebrew you can get, and I found that that's much more diverse on the craft end and the homebrew end than it will ever
Oh,
be in the
yeah.
commercial side, so
It has a huge spectrum, right? Like you just said, like you have your commercial side, which is especially if you go loggers, I mean, they're going to be fairly crisp, clean. Times to me, I usually find them kind of sweet nowadays. Like when I was drinking them before, I didn't find like Bud Light very sweet or Coors Light very sweet. But I find them sweet now, overall. When I do craft beers have their own unique flavors. Like I'll have a lager, I'm like, man, why is this lager so dry? Like this doesn't make any sense to me. And like, where's that sweetness that I'm kind of used to? Then you get like a homebrew lager, sometimes they're crystal clear, sometimes they're cloudy. And you're like, well, why is this lager cloudy? Is it supposed to be clear? It's supposed to be a clean, crisp beer. Like, what's going on here? So yeah, there's so many different complexities going on. And it also depends on your equipment that you have, how much time you want to put into it. So the few lagers that I've done, I've had gelatin to one to clear it up, and I did. That turned that sucker crystal clear. I let one just age for like 4 months. That turned clear. So like it's just weird all these little tricks we can do to make it look a certain way or taste a certain way. Where I don't think commercial can, because commercial is all about like pumping out as much as it can, fast as it can to make
yeah,
profit, right? So
I agree with that.
that's the big difference, I guess, between us and them.
It's been nice, but I don't know, I have a home beer, I've always liked a Mexican lager, and that's kinda what I try to brew at home,
Yeah.
and I keep that on tap typically year round. Sometimes
Okay.
there'll be a week or 2 that it's not there, but it's in the works, but it just hasn't got there. And like most, don't have all of the correct equipment, so I do a pressurized ferment on my
Yep.
loggers and that kinda thing, and I've never had anybody complain.
No.
I don't it works well for me, so I'm not even that worried.
Right on, man, right on. So, what is your preferred brewing method then? I don't know if we talked about this yet or not. I don't
I
recall.
have the equipment to do all of them. I have the ability, which I think most start out in extract because
Yeah.
that's get the kit, see if you like it, that kind of thing. I have the brew in the bag stuff to do. I've got a couple big kettles and I can do those. I don't like brewing the bag though because I always miss my gravity every time I do it. It seems like I
Gotcha.
can't I can't figure that process out. But I do have I've got a hot liquor tank that just a kettle I've converted to electric, put a element in, and I've got one of the Chapman mash tuns.
Mhm.
It doesn't, mash out as quickly as I'd like it to, but as complaints go, that's about the worst I've got out of it. Use a lot of rice hulls if you're using wheat, that's about
Yeah, there yeah, right.
so, but I do okay with it for the most part, and, and it's just standard bull kettle after that. I've got a hop spider and some other things, but, equipment-wise, it's pretty standard, so but I'd prefer all grain over the other.
Okay. God. Now, do you do any recirculating then as well or no?
A Vorloff?
Well, so I guess like I'm trying to think like so you have like the all in one. They have like a pump that will like recirculate as you're mashing out, right? So I don't know if you
Yeah.
do that as well or you're just
Um
let it steep.
With that mash tun, considering how slow it mashes out, what'll happen is it'll compact, and then I'll
Gotcha.
have some issues out of it. So I'll Vorloff usually, I'll mash out into a stainless pot or something, and I will reintroduce that back until I get clarity, and
Okay,
then
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
mash out. And then I'll sparge with, recommended water and temperature and all that stuff. And it
Mhm.
usually works out pretty good for me. But I've not had some of the step mashes and the other things, the more advanced. I've I've not delved into that because I really don't have the equipment to do it.
I haven't either. I've done no step mashing. There's one recipe I really want to do. It's Hellas that I got from Hobby Possum 2 years ago. It was like probably the best Hellas I've ever had. I've drank a crap ton of them throughout my lifetime, and I really like his. I sat with him for like almost like an hour just drinking his Hellas. Right, it was so good.
I think I sent you over to the 256 guys there a couple of years back.
Yeah, you
They
probably
had a
did.
really
Yeah.
good, Oktoberfest that I was kinda crushing on, but they slipped up and didn't get the recipe before they ran off.
Oh, I just asked him, and he was really cool, and he just gave it to me. So I took a picture of it. Sadly, he wasn't there this year, which kind of bummed me out because I really wanted to chit chat with him again. Because I had questions because his recipe, his handwriting was a little sloppy. So there's a couple things I just don't quite understand. So like I'm not scared to try it, but his is the one I do want to try. I just want to make sure I understand what he's saying. But I do brew in a bag. I looked at all the other stuff out there. I'm like, that's way too complicated. I know how to make tea. I just steep it and I'm good. So that's what I do. I'm a programmer. I work really hard to be lazy. So that's why brewing a bag is perfect for that kind of stuff, right?
See that?
Yeah. So like I know, like I said, I'm off on my final gravity every once in a while, but I mean I know how to adjust that. Right. So I can boil off more if I'm too low, or if I'm too high, I can just add more water. So it's really not that difficult for me to readjust it. It's usually when I add the yeast and get the attenuation and all that kind of stuff, sometimes that gets a little strange on me.
That's understandable. I've never had any consistency out
Gotcha.
of the brew in the bag. And I've tried making there's a cream ale that I've done 2 or 3 times that I enjoy, and it's an extract, and then it has just basically a, um, just a soak that you have to do with some of the specialty grains that go in it, and every time I do it, the gravity comes out 5 or 10 points one way or the other, and it's never on
Never
par.
right on. Yeah.
It's a really simple recipe, and it's kinda disappointing. It's like, how can I not do this?
Yeah. I was making my cream ale like my house beer there for a while, and I was pretty consistent, I would say, overall. I enjoyed it. I just got kind of get tired of it after a while. The one I really like, the cream ale I really enjoy, is I think it's Black Horse vanilla cream ale. That one's really good. I like that vanilla to it. And I need to revisit my recipe and probably just add vanilla to it. I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit, like in my questions here. So what I've noticed is like I have a hard time finishing 5 gallons of beer. So what I've been doing is I've been reducing to about 3 gallons. So like, how much are you brewing these days? I know you said you have a house beer, so I assume it's gonna be at least 5 gallons or so.
Yeah,
But overall, when
typically, I
you're just
do a
brewing,
5. I've got a lot of my guys at work, tend to enjoy some alcohol. I use them as test dummies.
there you
So,
go.
I'll take it to them, and they'll usually come back, and I'll take 3 or 4 samples to a few of them,
Okay.
and come back, and they'll, "Oh, this is really good," but, sometimes they'll have a request, and we'll have get-togethers with the guys, and they're like, "Hey, can you bring some beer?" This, that, and the other, and they'll ask a question, or some of them will
Yeah.
come up like, "I remember this beer as a kid." I've done several things like that, come over and have a brew day with somebody, and then, a month later, we're bottling, 50 bottles of beer so they can
Wow.
take it home with them, so it's typically a 5-gallon batch is what I do nowadays. I have the capability to do 10. So um I've converted a couple, commercial kegs over to fermenters. I've got a 7.5 and a 15, and so that allows me to do a 5 or a 10 under pressure.
Interesting. Yeah, you'll have to send me some pictures of that. I've not seen a commercial keg converted. Like I just have the ball lock kegs that I just use like a spunning valve. I don't know if I ever showed you the spunning valve I have. I have like the Swiss Army knife spunning valve. It's not cheap by means. It's like $80 or something like that. But I finally use it for what I want to. I actually ferment pressure 2 vessels at one time. Oh, I can do like 100 of them. I can just daisy chain them all together, right? As long as it's the same PSI that I want to use. So I did that. So my next experiment's going to be, because according to Tron, the guy that made it, and I'll have to drop his stuff down the description, you can take that off gas, which is just CO2, and start carbing another flat keg, right? So I could take that off and put that in there. So like I said, it's just a Swiss Army knife. It can do so many little things. You just have to buy out the little components, which is just go to Home Depot. That's all I did. Just found like the tubing and connections and all that kind of fun stuff. And like that's been fun. Like that's been a fun little thing to go play around with. So I'm kind of excited to do more of that myself.
The ones that I've got, I've take the stave
Okay.
um, out of them, and I've used a 2-inch tri-clamp with it's got um, just the ball locks on top of it converted over.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
works just like a standard ball lock,
Yeah. Yeah.
keg, and I use I got a floating dip tube inside of it. It's
Mm-hmm.
Floated, I think is the
Yeah. That's
brand
what
that I
I have.
use,
Yeah.
and I've got that. Cannot remember the little spunning valve that I'm using. I can't remember the brand on it, but it's pretty straightforward, and it's the same thing. You set it at a certain PSI. It's got a gauge
Mm-hmm.
on it,
Yep.
and I usually come back and check it, and I try to keep it somewhere around 12 while I'm fermenting, and it's kind of nice to come in and after it cleans up to have a good clean beer that's pre-carbed and pretty
Yep.
much ready to go as soon as it's over with.
Yep. Yeah, I typically have to purge mine. I find mine just to be a little too carved. Like I usually try to serve mine between 8, 9 psi, and around 12, it's like it's really foamy. So I usually just I'll purge the keg and then I'll put my gas on it and let it fill back up to like 8 or 9 psi and kind of go from there. That seems to work for me. But I also wonder. I've not done any research on it. I probably should one day. I keep my CO2 tank inside my keezer,
Yeah,
so
I do too.
I don't know if that cold temperature messes with the regulators at all or the actual pressure inside the CO2 tank itself. It's like, because it's cold, it's at 30, I think it's 35 degrees, 36 degrees, something like that.
Yeah,
That's what I keep
especially
my
for
keys are
homebrew.
at. So I don't know if that kind of throws things off a little bit. So I don't know if it's actually 9 psi or if it's higher than 9 psi. I have no idea.
I know
Would
if
like
I
to put it
try
on
to
the
set
outside.
mine at 15, like for my carbonation values,
Yeah.
if we're going to do something, mine are way, way overcarbed at
Yeah.
15.
There's it.
A 12 is usually pretty good for mine, and I'll
Okay.
have to purge. Like, before I serve, I'll drop my pressures down to at 6 or 8, somewhere in
6
there.
or 8.
But
Yeah.
I've got bigger hoses on my dispensers,
Hmm.
and they're kind of short, so there's a pressure change there that I have to account for when I go to dispense. So
I'm kind of wondering, and it'd be nice to talk to a scientist about this. I'm trying to line one up. Um, the elevation differences. So I wonder
that's
if
going to
if
matter.
I'm a higher elevation, I'm a Unicoi, so I'm like between 12 and 1600, right? Something like that. I'm not sure what yours is where you're at.
We're around 1100 here.
Okay, so I'm kind of curious if that difference in elevation changes that as well too. That's a good
Pressure
question.
matters. It looks like,
Yeah,
I'm not a cooking show, but it's pretty much like, no bake cookies.
but yeah,
Depending on your pressure, it's not going to set up, or you got to boil it a little longer or whatever.
true,
It's that kind of thing.
true. Yeah, that's something that I definitely have to jot that question down after this for sure because I would like to. Like I said, I think getting the scientists on there would be really fun to kind of pick their brains or a professor from ETSU that does the brewing and distilling. So okay, so you get your house beer. It's a Cerveza, which is always an excellent beer to have. Nowadays, do you find yourself making more mead or beer?
Meads and ciders are probably my primary, but that's what
Okay,
we do a lot of competitions. So
there you go.
we're making 5-gallon batches of those, and that's typically we'll do 6 to 9 a year, just
Okay.
for competition purposes. So it's quite a bit, and it, the amount of people attending's kind of slowed down regionally.
Hmm.
For those, we used to always kick all of our kegs off. The last two we did this year, one of them had a rain delay, and then there was not as much turnout as expected on the first. And those impacted, like, we didn't bring a lot home, but we brought, a quarter of a keg ish on everything back. And that leaves us some variance, which I don't mind because I've got the ability to serve like sevens. I'm good.
There you go. That's
I've
awesome,
got two.
man.
I've got two refrigerators converted over. One holds 3, and the other holds 4, and
Heck yeah.
worked out pretty good.
So since you brought up competitions, I guess I'll go ahead and kind of jump over to that as well. So you said you've entered like quite a few competitions. Have you won any medals yet?
We got best non beer at Thirsty Orange this year in April.
Okay.
So that
Congratulations.
was thank you. So that was interesting, and the club itself, all we were serving together, and we got best serving tin overall. So that was a club award for that. So that was us and Natalie and Brian
Okay.
and John Bolt. We all served together there that day.
Well, that's awesome, man. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to ask this question because I think it's just an interesting one to ask. Okay, so what's your takes on actual competitions? Really, like, is it really worth it, or is it just about bragging rights?
It depends on how you take it. Like,
Okay.
I don't do it to win.
Okay.
So I was obviously thrilled that we won.
Exactly.
That's not really my goal. I like to serve the people that are there and get their
Hmm.
feedback
Hmm.
and see how we're doing. And it's always nice because most of them will provide you with a follow-up that tells you kind of where you were at and how everybody rated it and that kind of stuff. And you get that feedback, and it's more honest. Like, you can't really trust your friends. 'Cause, free alcohol is like, oh yeah, that's good. Give me some more. You get the whole thing from the general public, and they're, yeah, well, I kind of don't like this, or I kind of do like that, or they'll tell you, if it's a 5-star rating system, you may end up the 3.5. And so obviously something's not good about that. You can go back and look at your
Right.
recipe and figure out what that was.
Exactly. So,
But yeah, I think it's worth it in that aspect
mhm.
to improve yourself. I don't really, the pat on the back side, if that was my only goal, I'd probably quit a long time ago. It's not the easiest things to do. The competition in some of those is pretty
No,
stiff.
it's yeah, I'm sure it's pretty I can't think of the word right now, but, like, I thought about doing it, like, I thought about doing, like cider because ciders are pretty fun to kinda play around with and make, and they're fast overall to make, I think. I like to use Kveiki, so you can turn a cider in less than a week, you're drinking it, and I think it's good because like, the Kveik doesn't add any extra flavors to it that I've
Yeah, it's a
noticed
great
anyway,
yeast. I
so
agree with that.
but it's expensive, so it's not like a yeast I always wanna grab tours all the time. I've not learned how to wash yeast yet. My buddy Mike,
Yeah.
when he started, he jumped right into it, like, he found a beer that they like, he makes it, and then he learned how to wash his yeast. I'm like, "Wow," like, I've been doing this for 3 years, I've not even learned how to wash my yeast yet. He spent, like, 2 months and figured it out. I'm like, "Dang it, I gotta get on the ball on this one." So, yeah, so I definitely would like to try, like, a competition. I think we talked about this before. Really considering doing hoppy possum next year so I'll probably do a beer and a cider to get that going. I don't care if I win or lose. I would like to see people's opinions. I have a theory, and my theory is that hoppy possum, the way it's set out, I feel like people they get the first 15 to 20 boosts, which are all like kind of that single line, they get voted high. Because by the time they get past the right when they get around I like to call the village where all the other ones are, they're already pretty tipsy. So they forget to scan. They don't know how to scan. They scan whatever, and everyone kind of gets kind of dicked over in that little area. That's my theory. I could be wrong.
I can agree with that, and I've been the 3 that we've been to that have that kind of approach where it's not just a, here they come kind of deal. It's a lot like that. The first 2 or 3 guys are trying to explain to everyone that comes through the gate how to vote and how to rate their
Hmm.
alcohol, so they
Hmm.
waste half of their time doing that instead of communicating with the people that are drinking,
Yep.
and then that's a disadvantage in my opinion. The first year that we done that, we had that problem.
Yeah.
Basically had to explain it to everybody that come through, so basically spend a day being an announcer. Um, that's you don't like to do that, but it at the end of the day, it worked out pretty good. We usually come in some of the bigger competitions, kinda middle to upper third
Hmm.
when we compete, and considering the competition there's people you've got, Bill Boyer and some of the others on the Mead side that are, I mean, these are homebrew of the years,
Hmm.
and that's global. So when you're in that type of mixed company and these guys are driving, hours and hours from out of state to come compete, and you've got that kind of feedback on a public view, and you're looking at what they score, and you're 0.003 out on the score from them. That's it says a lot. And there's
Oh yeah.
that top end, there's not a big range there.
Uh,
If it's a 5-star rating, you might be somewhere between a 4.5 and a 4.6 is the top 25 beers. So it's a big gap.
yeah.
For to draw. Even getting down to the middle. I mean, most of the presentations, none of them are bad. I don't think I've ever had a bad beer at one of those competitions. They're always pretty solid.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's very so. Have you had any memorable fails while brewing? Or you brewed a
Yes,
beer and it didn't turn out the way you wanted it to, or mead or something?
several.
Several?
I've had some that scared me. Uh, when I first got started, I tried what they call a Viking blood mead. It's cherry, 1118 and or D47 or 71B. It doesn't matter which yeast you use. They love cherry juice. That's a mess. Give it a
Really?
lot of extra headspace. It'll foam and it's definitely a blow off kind of situation. So,
Wow.
I learned that. Fortunately, I had it contained and I was able to not turn the house pink, but it was definitely a situation that could have been bad. That one was pretty good. I've had some not turn out so good,
Yeah.
that you're just a little disappointed in. And I've had some that were amazing. I had a cherry cream ale that I did one time that
Okay.
I absolutely
Oh, that'd
hated
be good.
for
Really?
3 months. Yes, I made it, and, I did a secondary on the cherry juice, and I let it
Mhm.
sit through, and it was just it tasted like a fruit cake for forever, it seemed like, and
Really?
yeah, it was I was using it as I would have a couple beers, and then I would have a couple of those just trying to get rid of it, and, it was one of those situations, and I thought about it, and I forgot about it for a month or 2, and it
Mhm.
sit in the fridge, and I come back, and I was like, "Let's try this again, let's see what it tastes like," and it was amazing. I mean, it had aged into what it was supposed to have been, in my mind, and I was like, "Oh, this is great." I was really excited. I was like, "Oh, this is perfect." I picked the keg up, and it may have had a 6 or 12 pack at the bottom of it still. I was so disappointed. I was like,
Wow.
so I'm gonna definitely redo that one, but
So went from a failure to an unexpected win, which is like a
yeah,
great story for
that was
sure.
great, but it was one of those, I wish I hadn't have done that now.
Right. Right, right, right. Yeah, so my fails have been big fails. Like I've not had one that turn out to be a positive. I wish one day I will have something like that in a way. I want to, I want to get back into experimenting a little bit different because you've asked me like, how do I come up with my flavors and this that. It's just kind of like whatever kind of tickles my fancy. I'm like, oh, this sounds kind of interesting. Let me see what can I do with it or how can I make it? Or I watched enough videos or read enough articles about it. I think I can pull something off. So I think one of them was like the strawberry lemon cider you asked about one time. And the other one was
That was really good.
by apple pie cider. That one, that was last fall that you liked as well too. And I've not been brave to try other stuff quite yet. Like I want to try fermenting on whole fruit. All right. So I'm not sure how much that actually imparts into the beer itself, but it sounds neat to try. Like, yes, I fermented this on top of blueberries, or I fermented this on top of cherries. I'm not sure how
It
much that
makes a
flavor
big difference.
transfers. Does it? You think so?
Yeah, it does. But if you and it makes a big difference when you use it too. So if you
Okay.
put it in your primary fermentation, you get a fermented fruit taste, like more of a wine is a
Okay.
good thing for grapes. So you get a red wine flavor. But if you do it in the secondary or afterwards and age on it,
Uh-huh.
you get more of a juice flavor. So like maybe a Welch's.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
So you get different depending on when you use it or how you use it, or you
Right.
can get both by doing both.
Yeah, that might be interesting to try. I'll try that. I didn't brew as much as I wanted to this year, just life busy, all that kind of fun stuff. Have you tried? I've been seeing this kind of trend too lately by one YouTuber. I can't think of his name right off the top of my head. Like a no water mead, where you just use fruit juice as your water. Have you tried one of those yet?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So all of our ciders are that way.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's
Yeah.
how ciders are done. But anytime that we've used anything that I do flavored that's primary flavored
Mm-hmm.
is like that. But I do use a concentrate, so technically I'm still putting water in it.
Right.
So I'm adding the amount of water that they would have taken out of the concentrate. So technically it's juice, but not really. And fruit juices are hard to find without
Yeah.
formates and those kinds of things in them for preservatives.
Mm,
And I try to avoid that if I can. So
true.
I'll
Yeah.
use 99% of the time fresh fruit or a fruit concentrate that is, genuinely just brought down to the sugar so far that it can't have any issues.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I've watched a couple of videos on it. So basically, what I watched was a pineapple mead or pineapple juice mead. It just looked delicious, right? It was just pineapple juice, like Dole's pineapple juice, 2.5 pounds of honey, but it's because there's just one, like 1 gallon batch. I believe he said it took 90 days for it to all kind of do its stuff because he did other things too. I did watch all, I kind of skimmed through the video. So he had to like, I'm not sure what it was. He used some type of like clarifier to kind of clear it up. So it was more of a yellow instead of being cloudy because of all the, was it pectin, right? That's a fruit to drop that out. Then he has to stabilize it and do this and do that. So he did a lot of like stuff to make it look the way it did. But just the idea, like I would try it cloudy because it still look good even cloudy.
Yeah,
Like it didn't
I
look
mean,
bad at all,
pineapple is probably
really.
one of my favorite flavors. I love it.
So I was like, maybe I'll try that. So I kind of have that written down. I have like a board over here with like ideas of stuff, beers and ciders. I've only made one meetup so far. But like the pineapple one definitely sounds very, very interesting to me to try. And like I said, it's just all juice. There's no water. I'm sure there's water in the can itself because I'm sure it's made from concentrate and all that kind of stuff. But I digress. It's just supposed to be an all juice, no water mead. So I think it'd be a fun little thing to try to get
Yeah,
into.
I
You
agree.
were you were talking about you introduced some your buddies to homebrewing. And I kind of want to go back to that a little bit. So you had them come over. I was like, look, we're gonna make a beer. So how involved did you have them? Because I have had my own story on this one.
Well, the first time we done it, there was a group, maybe 5 of the guys from work come over.
Okay, wow, a good size.
So I had the house beer on tap, and so, it was a promise of free beer and maybe learn something to get some more beer later. So, they bid on it and come over, and it's a knockoff of Red Tail Ale.
Okay,
It's a old Cali brew. We actually bottled that later for the guy that paid for all the ingredient. Um, but they come over, and it's an extract brew, and, we went through the whole process. I mean, we did it in my kitchen instead of in the brew room.
yeah.
So that way it would represent how they would do it at home if they were to try to do it, to kind of get them introduced to it and see
Mhm.
what they thought about it. And, a stock pot on the stove and the whole steep and everything else. And it actually came out really good. The guy was pleased with it, and he's actually asked for a second round of it. We're getting ready to do another one here, probably within the next month anyway.
Well, that's exciting.
You know, he's been back, and then we've had a couple more smaller sessions with some of the other guys have come over, and they more just participated in me making my house beer
Mhm.
or some other things that were going on. But my brew days, they take a little longer because of the mash tun. But I'm heating something around 10, and by the time I'm done, it's probably 3 or 4 in the afternoon. So,
That's not horrible. It's about what,
yeah, it's about
6 hour
4 or 5 hours.
days,
Yeah,
4 hours.
it takes my heating elements a couple hours, so it's noon before I actually get started doing anything. Besides,
Gotcha.
getting the grains and stuff ready. That's about it.
Yeah, so one thing I did to help out one person actually had come over and brew with me, like I already had the water basically almost up to temp. I was like, be here at 10, but I already started heating like at 9, whatever. So I kind of cut that process out because it's kind of just boring to watch water heat up, right? So, but I had to go through everything. I had a no, I did have a mill at the time, so I already had it pre-crushed. I showed them like with the not hot bag, the bag itself to put all the grains in. We went through all that and went through the hop stage, and he actually helped me lift it up because it was one of the more heavier beers I made, which is kind of nice because he's a bodybuilder, so he's a strong guy, so he can lift it up for me. They definitely helped out some there. I bought a winch. I like, 'cause my shoulder is so jacked up. I can't lift it anymore. So I have a winch. I just gonna pull on it, pulls it up
Oh,
for
that's
me.
nice.
Oh, I had to. That was just killing me. Every time I get to it, I'm trying to hold it. I'm shaking. I'm like, my shoulder hurts.
When I do the extract brews, I tie it off to the handle on the microwave above the stove,
Heck yeah. There's
so
nothing
it
wrong with
kind of
that.
holds it up out of the pot and does what it needs to. It's pretty good.
Oh, yeah. Yep, exactly. So it is kind of fun to brew with someone else, but I also like the tranquility of being by myself.
Agree.
Because there's a little bit of that downtime where I can like, okay, I can do nothing. Like I could wash, I could do this, whatever. I can listen to a podcast. I could read a book. I could jot down my notes in because I kind of redundant. I have a beer journal over there, and then I also use Brewfather because Brewfather's. I don't feel like dragging that journal with me to homebrew meetings because nobody can read my handwriting anyways. So I use Brewfather. So I'll put it there first, and then I'll transfer it over to Brewfather, or vice versa. Like if I'm at work working, not using company time, I'll actually use Brewfather. I'll develop like a recipe like on the fly, and then I'll like, oh, this looks kind of good. And then if I like it, I'll put it into my journal. Because I think because Brewfather I may not use forever. I may just cancel it because $30 after a while, it kind of gets tired of paying that. I can have that forever. As long as I'm around. So it is kind of neat to kind of use both different systems. People have kind of picked on me for doing both, but whatever. It's my time, so I do what I want. Dang it.
It's it's kind of like that with mine. I'm a music guy, so I like to turn on music and
Yeah.
kick back and listen to that. That's pretty good for me. The quiet time, there's up to 4 hours you're brewing. There seems like there's about 3 of it that you aren't doing a lot of things. So it's a
No,
pretty
it's
laid back hobby.
slow.
Like
It is. Okay, so as club president, I'm guessing uh you definitely help people do their first batch. Like you were done with one gentleman. He's going to come back. You're going to do like a second batch with him. So far, what has been the most common mistake beginners make that you've seen so far?
I think really expecting too much.
True.
I mean, it's real easy to do because it seems like it's such an easy thing, and then all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden it's really not, and it's really easy to mess up. But it takes more time than they think it would. So it, like, especially with the meads and stuff, it's a solid, I don't know. Sometimes if you're up over 10%, it's 6 months to a year before you touch it. So
True. Very true. It can be a while. I think the other expectation is like, I remember like, and I brewed my first one. My wife's like, so you have beer, you can drink it now, right? And I'm like, no, I have what's called wort. She's like, you have a wort? No, wort, and with an O, not an A. I said, so I have to add yeast to it, which is going to convert the sugars into alcohol. And that takes, 2 weeks, give or take, plus or minus, depending on the, the yeast strain. He goes, and then you have beer? Well, then I gotta, I gotta bottle condition it, and you gotta add a little sugar to it. So what yeast is not dead or carbonated, or I gotta keg it. And I can fast carb a keg within, I don't know, 5-6 minutes. I can drink then. All in all, it's about a month before I can actually have a
yeah,
drinkable
that's kind of
thing.
where
She's like, oh, so it's not that fast. I'm like, no, not really. It's just time. That's all. Like, trying to find that rotation, I always thought was kind of interesting. Like, I don't have a rotation. I probably should. I just like, oh, I'm going to make this today. Or I look at what ingredients I've left for, because I still have a crap ton of hops from Atlantic. Was it Atlantic Supply that went out of
yeah,
business
I know
last
you're talking
year?
about.
I have a bunch of hops in there. Like, I even have like experimental hops that are like, there's no names. They're like YZ47 exclamation point. Okay, whatever this is, I don't know. It's tropical. Like, okay, I'll make a tropical something later on, as I've done it yet. So with your woodworking stuff, I definitely want to talk about your Jockey barrel that you made for Hoppy Possum, and maybe you could send me like a little photo of it later on. I can kind of add it in here as well. Like, how? Like, so I guess multiple questions at once. So I'm gonna kind of throw them at you. You just kind of answer them how you want to. But like, how long have you been woodworking? How long did it take you to build that? And what was your inspiration to build it? A lot of questions.
When I started woodworking, wasn't my choice.
Fair enough.
My dad was a handyman a lot of my life when we were growing up, especially in the 80s.
Yeah.
Kind of a point in time in life that nobody really had a job, so you kind of had to work for yourself and make money as you could. He was really good with that kind of stuff. I mean, he cabinets, desk work. I mean, he can do some
Wow.
really nice work. I am nowhere near that quality of a craftsman. He is very good, and I learned a lot from him as a kid that I didn't realize I was learning, of course. So I've been doing that pretty much since I've been old enough to be doing woodwork, in different stages. But for myself, I really didn't get to the point where I started enjoying it until maybe the last decade or so, 30s, 40s.
Same here. Yep.
And it got to the point to where I did the automotive thing, and that's fine and good until you realize that at some point your body can't crawl under cars and roll around on the floor and do those things like you could when you were younger. So I kind of progressed into something else that I can still get to use my hands with and enjoy it. So
No, I totally agree with that.
the inspiration from the project
Uh-huh.
was, initially I wanted to do something that I could use to serve with at events and also set up in my brew room for guests or whatever to use.
Okay.
And I I had this huge project planned out.
Uh-huh.
The barrel that you've seen at Hoppy is probably 75% of what it originally started as.
Okay.
There was additional decoration and some more woodwork for, instead of having a metal bottom, it was going to be wood. And the practicality of transporting all that was pretty much nil to none. Everything would have gotten broken, and the water portion probably wouldn't have made it past a couple of events. So, common sense took over, and I'd just done the barrel part of it.
Mm-hmm.
That little project was, I think I spent about a month and a half on it.
Okay.
And by that, it was maybe two, but it was more of like a couple days on the weekends, most Saturdays, and then some time on Sundays, and then a couple hours in the afternoons, 3 days a week, maybe. Total time, I counting drying time and all the
Yeah.
things, but total time was probably work wise, I would say close to 3 weeks.
That's pretty. I remember that being very pretty. You did a really
Yeah,
good job.
it turned out really good. It was more complicated than I expected it to be. And there was a lot more parts involved in it than I expected. When I first started doing it, I've been collecting parts for it for
Mm-hmm.
probably a year and a half or so. And then when I got done, I kind of done a tally, and I would be embarrassed to actually say how much I've got in it and just part. It was a little bit. So, it was a little more than I expected it to be, but it was spread out over quite a bit of time, so it really didn't hit the pocket too hard.
Yeah, I guess that does help for sure. Yeah, well, like you said, you know, when you saw like the grand total, like I remember just for kind of change something, just like when I redid this whole basement, because this was just one big garage, right, for the most part. So I split
Yeah,
it up like like 30% of it is like office, whatever, and then the other 70% is like garage. Well, so I did it in sections, right? You kind of get it done. But then the wife tallied everything up. I was like, I didn't want to know that total. I knew how much I spent on the wood. I knew how much I spent on the. You didn't buy it all at once, right? So, but the drywall later on. So I know what I spent on each thing. I don't need the price. Jeez, oh, Pete, it was shocking, is what it was. I forgot how much I actually put into this basement. It's crazy. Then I had to hire an electrician and all that hoo ha. It was just insane. And so we were talking about something earlier about like the declining thing that you've been seeing. So you've been in the hobby for a while now. You're part of the club. You've gone to competitions. You've served at competitions. I'm sure you also drink as well. Where do you see homebrewing culture heading to? Because I know it's at a decline. Like you look at all the stats, it's just on this it's not plateauing. It's going down.
it's definitely it's probably on a lot bigger decline than anybody wants to admit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of that has to do with the whole instant gratification thing that people are used to
That's a good point.
nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
So
Good point.
it's a little more difficult, and I feel that it's geared toward people that are a little more experimental, maybe a little older, or not really in age, but in mentality, I guess. A little
Okay.
more mature that might be looking more into the finer things in life, aka, betterment in life, I guess. And that really limits the people that are interested in that. There's a lot of people that like to drink. A lot of people don't like to drink beer nowadays. That's been on a decline for a while, and that's another reason why we've kind of leaned on the ciders, because that's
Mm-hmm.
where market currently is.
A little
Cider
sweeter
itself
too.
is a little sweeter, a little more flavorful. By that I mean juice flavors, not beer flavors, but they got a wider range, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I think so
But
too.
the homebrew is kind of the same thing, because there's a lot of times that I've been involved in it that people um, they aren't interested in people that do cider or mead or wine,
Mm-hmm.
and well, they're just strictly focused on beer, and that's limiting, because if I'd just done beer, I'm definitely not nearly as good of a beer brewer as I am mead, in my opinion. And so the mead has definitely helped with the fermentation side of it for me, because I had to learn it, because otherwise you're just drinking jet fuel.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Some hot
It's
liquor.
it can get there pretty quick,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
that's
But
what I felt with my meat when I first tried it. I was like, "Ooh, this is awfully hot." So I think I let it sit for a while before I even try. No, yeah, I think I talked to you. You said just let it sit, just kind of let it do its thing for a while before you bottle it. Blah, blah, and I did. And when I tried it this past, I think it was like a month or two ago, we tried it. I think it was still pretty good overall. I like it for what it is. I have like 2 bottles left. I think I'm just gonna let them sit for like another year out, and then like one more year out after that, just to kind of see how it changes throughout the time. And I have a couple of notes written down about it. So I have kids, you have kids. My kids aren't really interested in home brewing. They kind of like the beer I make for the most part. They're not interested. How about your boys? Are they interested in the home brewing side that you've been doing at all?
they enjoy what I make. The
Right.
process maybe not so much,
Gotcha.
but they do ask a lot of questions. So I would say
Okay.
yes.
So they're
Um,
intrigued.
yeah,
Right.
and of course my youngest don't get to participate in the back end of that because he's not of age, but he likes science, he likes math, he likes those things, and he found it very interesting because he was asking questions. Well, why does it do that? Why does this work? And why is it this way? And why are you adding stuff to it? What do you got a scale here for? And you start using the gram scale to calculate, nutrient additions and salts and
Mm-hmm.
those kind of things, and getting
Mm-hmm.
all your yeast together. It's a lot of stuff that they haven't seen, so they do get interested in that. And
Mm-hmm.
there's the science side of it. It's kind of like doing a lab at school. Everybody likes that in science class, you know
Right.
and so I see that part of it, but they also, the older ones, they enjoy, being able to come in and drink it. Like they'll see you. it might be midsummer and you just finished something off, and then they'll come in the wintertime for the holidays or something, and it's ready to drink, and they're like, "Oh, hey, I remember you making this. What did it turn out like?" So they'll get some. I usually send them on their way with, like a, little taste pack or
Heck
whatever.
yeah.
So sometimes they end up with a 12 pack, sometimes it's just two or three, but
Yeah.
they do enjoy it.
There you go. That's awesome. Yeah, the Sierra Nevada clone that I did the American Pale Ale. Like my son didn't really care for it. He's like, it's kind of hoppy. I was like, well, yeah, they're a little hoppy. But then I started thinking about it. I was like, oh yeah, you don't like hoppy beer. You're more of a clear beer drinking kind of kid. Yeah, he's only 20. He just turned 22. But he likes Dunkels, which I mean, I love Dunkels well too. Where my other son, he likes the dark black beers. I mean, he likes dark porters and really dark, heavy stouts. Like he loves all the stouts. He doesn't like hoppy beers either. So I'm like, so when I make beers, I have to kind of think a little bit. So can I get my kids to try this? And the answer is usually no if it's hoppy, which just kind of sucks. Cause I do want them to try it. It's like, hey, you may not like hoppy beers, but you may find one that you do like. Right. So like I didn't really care for hoppy beers either until I tried New England IPAs for the most part. And then I started really liking them. I kind of like the style. I don't like West Coast IPAs. I find those to be,
They're too acidic for me.
yeah, they're 2 pints salty, too much grapefruit. I enjoy grapefruit, but the way I like grapefruit is like with a lot of brown sugar. So I guess I like brown sugar, not the grapefruit. So let's talk a little regional stuff here. So what is like some of your favorite local breweries, the ones we have left?
Yeah, they're unfortunately somewhat fading. I do enjoy Gypsy is one of my favorites, mostly because they have a pretty well-rounded offering. They do bring in some craft stuff from some other places, but he's got a pretty broad spectrum of what he has on tap. So he'll
Mm-hmm.
have
Mm-hmm.
various ciders and meads, and they rotate those, so it's not consistent all the time. I enjoy Johnson City Brewing. They have some hidden.
Very interesting stuff coming out lately.
So he is my kind of brewer. I've not had the pleasure to sit down and talk to him as much as I'd like
Right.
to, but as far as how he brews his beer and his approach to brewing, I really like it. He's he is not afraid to try something new and to go out on a limb, and it really shows. And it sometimes he comes off with some just amazing beers, and I like that because if there's something new to be had, he's gonna shoot for it anyway.
Right.
So I like that about them. And then, of course, there's you got Six Beer over in Kingsport.
Yeah.
They do a really good job, and we're down here closer to Knoxville on my end where I'm at. So we also have Zoll and some of the others
Mm-hmm.
that are down this way. They're okay, but I think they're a little more trendy. So there's some interesting experiences with that. But we recently were able to up until recently we were able to get a lot of that very local
Yeah.
here to the house, but they've a couple of places have closed, and then those offerings aren't as available as they used to be. So I've got to make the trip all the way to Knoxville to get a hold of it now. But all in all, that's probably the big ones. Asheville's over the hill, so
Yeah.
there's quite a bit there.
There is. Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Burial.
Yeah. It's a good one.
Probably by far my favorite in within a couple hours of here.
Yeah.
So
Wicked Weed's pretty good too. I enjoyed them a lot.
yeah, yeah. Some of their stuff's good. They actually pointed me where to find my hams while we were down there on the last trip, and
Okay.
I was
Yeah.
not a beer that you can find
Mm-hmm.
typically in this area, and they
Never had one.
it's a just a good clean lager, easy to
Okay.
drink. They had Highwire actually had it,
Oh, really?
and
I like
yeah, but
Highwire
not at
too.
they didn't have it on tap at their tap room. They had it back in the back at the Tiki Hut, and
Okay.
we were able to just kind of kick back and enjoy they were cans, they were on
Yeah,
tap,
yeah.
but it's still something I can't get here.
So was that? So I know there's two high wires. There's high wire, what, South Slope, and what's the other
Yeah,
one?
it was the South
That
Slope
was
with
that was
it's
South
right
Slope.
up
Okay.
on the backside behind. They've got now since the flood, I don't know. This was prior
Yeah, I'm
to.
not sure either.
I don't know if that's still there, but they had a great venue in the back. It's a
Mm-hmm.
little tiki bar set up, and
Right.
it was it was just put up in the back of the warehouse, and it was a
Yeah.
really good location. I mean, just kind of kick back and plenty of seating and get a good little area to be in.
So I think one of my favorite, if I were to get top three in Nashville, it would definitely be Highland. I love Highland beers. I love their Gaelic ale. Kale is one of those ones like I like better on tap than I do in bottle. I just prefer that way. Probably be burial, and I'm torn between high wire and wicked weed. I mean, there's some pretty good contenders right there. Yeah, so be tied between those two. But I also enjoy going to Thirsty Monks. Thirsty Monk has their basement where they have a lot of like imported German Belgian beers.
Yes.
Oh man,
That
some
is my
delicious delights there for sure.
You were talking about your kids earlier, but
Oh
that's
my
his
gosh.
oldest. He's a big Belgian guy, and
Yeah.
I've done a Belgian triple. I'm actually
Oh
planning
yeah.
on taking up to Johnson City Brewing. I've got a couple bottles left. I was
Okay.
gonna take some
Yeah.
bottles up there.
Okay.
Here, it'll be a couple weeks
Couple
from now,
weeks.
but,
Yeah.
I was planning on taking that up to there, and I've got 2 bottles left I was gonna share with some people because that's I don't know if I'll remake it,
Yeah.
but him and all of his friends loved it.
You've been voluntold. I heard that in the
Yeah.
background. All right. So I'm gonna do some rapid fire questions. So it's like just the
Okay.
first answer that kind of comes to your head is something kind of fun. I've been done with everyone else. So what? Since you're doing mead, I'm gonna start with mead ones first. So do you like traditional or flavored mead?
Flavored.
Sweet or dry? Okay, fair enough. I was like, dang it, I thought you said one. Fair enough, fair enough. Wildflower or single origin?
Wildflower because it's got variances.
Yeah, it does for sure. So for yeast, do you like to use beer, wine, or mead?
For the meads,
Mm-hmm.
wine yeasts,
Okay.
beers are typically just the beer yeast. On the
Right.
cider
Yeah.
side, almost all of our ciders are exclusively done with 256.
That's
Yeah,
wine, isn't
BE
it?
2 yeah, it's no, it's
Okay.
a
Yeah.
beer yeast.
A beer
It's,
256.
yeah, BE 256. It's,
Okay. Yeah.
so it gives it kind of a peppery note on the
Mm-hmm.
backside.
There you go. Yeah.
I think it gives it the appearance of being a little drier than it is, and you can sweeten it up a little more.
Gotcha. All
So,
right.
pretty good.
Okay, so now these are more beer-ish, I guess, in a way. So you ready? Here we go.
Yep,
So hazy or clear?
clear.
Bottle or can?
Bottle.
Favorite, right? Favorite beer glass?
Just your standard 16-ounce pint.
Just a little pint
Well,
glass, yeah.
yeah, a little tapered pint, be good.
There you go. All right, one brewing trend you would like to see go away.
Peanut butter and jelly.
Okay, there you go. That's a pretty right to the point kind of one. It's not even a style. It's like just that one gone. What trend would you like to see come back?
Barley wines.
Okay, yeah, interesting
And
choice.
you don't see too many of those anymore.
You don't. That's true. Well, we also live in a state where it's hard to
Yeah,
find high
it's
gravity
hard to
beers,
do 'em.
anyways. Yeah. So there's that for sure. All right, so we're kind of getting to the wrap up point. Don't I have just like 4 more questions basically? Is there anyone else that you like to see me interview next? And if so, do you have their contact information you can supply me so I can reach out to them? If you don't,
Locally,
you could just it could be
no, I
an
think a
author if
good
you want.
interview, Aaron with Gypsy Cider might be a good one.
Okay.
He's been in the industry and he's pretty open-minded about
All
stuff like that.
right. Jot
And
that
he
down.
doesn't mind to share information. So I could probably give you email or
Okay,
whatever.
that works. That works. Perfect. Yep. Write that down real quick. Gypsy. Cool. Thank you. Is there any upcoming events or releases that you're looking forward to this season?
Obviously, we've got a lot of friends and stuff that participate in Thirsty and Hoppy, so those for sure. We're thinking about doing, what is the one they put on Brew Street in Pigeon Forge?
Okay.
So that Brew Street Beer Fest, and we'll probably do that this spring. It's going to be right around the same time that Thirsty is, so we'll see how it is. But it's a people's choice, and it's pretty fun.
Okay, it should be kind of fun. And if anybody wanted to reach out to you, do you have any like socials or anything like that where they can reach you?
Yeah, we run Razzie Mead and Cider, and that's on Facebook at Razzie Meadwork.
Okay. Yeah, you can send me that information. I'll drop that down in the description as well too. And the last question, I promise, is there a recipe that you're willing to share with the audience? So what I'm doing is I'm collecting a recipe from every person I interview. I'm gonna put it into like a Google Drive and just make it public so everybody can go in. So like Coby talked about this habanero green chili mead that he made one time. Oh, well, you can make this thing, right? So that'd be death by bottle right there. But just if you're willing to do so, that'd be great. No, you don't have to give an answer right now, but so I just can ask that question and you can send it to me later on.
I've got I do a root beer mead that I like that I
Okay.
wouldn't mind to share. It's actual, not from syrup. It's actual from the roots.
Okay.
Some people will balk at it because it does have the sassafras and the other things at it,
Mm-hmm.
but I can assure people that you can't make enough of that to kill you. So
Fair enough.
it will not
Fair
be a
enough.
health issue before something else will take you out of this world.
That's perfect. Yeah, if you can send that to me, I'll definitely share that as well. Well, Coby, it's been a pleasure to chat with you. Thank you very much for doing this. I do appreciate this, and I can't wait to see you here in a couple weeks, buddy.
Yeah, you as well. Take care. Thank you for having me on.
Yep. All right. We'll see you, sir.
All right, see you.
See you.